added a couple of pages into your app, I notice actually now that I could have put it on a branch. I didn't see that your tier was with branches. Anyway, it is on main. I probably should have put it on a branch, but it's on main, doesn't really matter. I've added 2 pages, a page called Etsy Callback and a page called Etsy Demo. I've added a plugin called Etsy Integration, and in your plugin I've added your client ID. In that plugin I've added your client ID. I've added something called Etsy Token, which is to hold your Etsy token and to manage your Etsy and refresh token, and one called LDebug, which is and this is a very naive implementation. This is not how I do it, but it just gets you running. Depending on what you want to do with Etsy, is you would make this very, very private. So in order to make it a little bit private, basically you just have back-end APIs accessing this table, but to get proof of concept working, I'm storing the access token in here. So basically these values, this access token, there's a few others which would be considered really quite secret. Basically this access token and the refresh token. But in any case, you can only this can only be used from your app. So by virtue of the fact there's this stuff in your Etsy developers account means only a few apps in the world can get in there, and these basically this one is key, this one and this one. So what it looks like is I logged into Etsy because I had a session in this browser already from the previous login for your Etsy account. I was able to log into Etsy, and if you log in here, this is your shop ID, and there is this debug information, and here's shop receipts, and it's a paginating API, so you can get 100 at a time. So for your shop ID, you can get your shop receipts. So it's getting, you'll find out in the first time the plugin runs, it's got a Lambda warm-up time. You have 8,888 shop receipts, and the first 100 look like this. And these are only some of the values on. Basically, I've implemented the API, so the values you can get out on a receipt is basically all of them. Let's have a look what that looks like. So if you go into the API reference and go to a shop receipt, you get all of these fields here. So yeah, so if you want to understand what all the fields are, you have to go to the API documentation. Here's the API documentation. So and then if there's a particular receipt, this gets the full details for those ones, but let's say I'm really particularly interested in this receipt. I can put in the receipt ID and get a whole lot of information about that receipt. So what that looks like on the page is in here. So if we have a look on here, get shop receipt, get shop receipt, get the shop receipt. You can see there's all of these fields, many of them, all of them. So you just need to implement what makes sense to you for your use case. This is just a demo app, so basically it gets the shop receipt and it stores the shop receipt. It basically at first it finds the token from the token table, and then it uses the tokens to get the shop receipt, and then off what the plugin returns is a whole lot of debug information. But when things go well, there's a plugin date type called shop receipt. That's because the plugin in your data types now, there's some new data types, plugin data types, and there's a shop receipt. And because of that, you can get all of the shop receipt stuff. There's this page called Etsy Callback, and this is only used by the OAuth process. So because we're implementing the OAuth process, and then it grabs when Etsy calls back, when we tell Etsy to call back with a token, it comes back into here, comes back into this page, and then we ignore the privacy rules and we have a back-end workflow that does makes changes as a token, and it also then schedules in 50 minutes time grabbing the refresh token. So this way in the Etsy token table there's always a updated valid access token, and this one has been updated twice now. It's been a refresh count of twice. So you only need to sort of do this login once, say probably in an admin page, and down here, because of the two APIs that we're looking at, which is transactions to get the receipts and shops to get this, we don't actually need listings or email, but because these two API calls, get shop receipts, only needs transactions, I think. But see how they're read only, so it's no harm. But if you wanted to reduce that scope, you would change it here. So when we log in, and when we log in here, we connect with a scope list, and I've set that scope list, and we've connected with it. We need to pass a redirect URL. So here's a working system. It's kind of just proof of concept and demo, because how precisely you would now, what you'd precisely do with this really depends on your use case. But I suggest if you want to import, for example, all your receipts, I'm not sure what, it depends how you want to do it and how you build your app now, but you definitely want to have a different design for how you store your token, how you access the tokens. You basically only want either authenticated users who are permitted to see the data, you would set these privacy rules. So you would set the privacy rules to only allow people who are allowed to access Etsy able to see the access token. And you don't need to do view all fields. There's only the certain number of fields that they would need to see, and they would not need to. And I can talk about that when you get to it. But there you go. So if you look at the API reference and look at a receipt, this is what you can get. You can use the API. You can get all the shop receipts, and you paginate through them. Get shop receipts, and you could actually. I should probably implement this one so you can find. I'm almost certain you're going to want get shop receipts, and you want to do this one and then parsons. So basically, search for shop receipts, like get yesterday's shop receipts or something like this, or this. So I'm waiting for your feedback. I suspect you'll want this one as well. But there you go. So there's in your app, and I put in a trivial. You see there's X add some auth as a special parameter. It's just to stop casual browsers going into here. My suggestion would be is under the settings here, under general, just for the development, put a username and password on the development. And what that means is we'll also need to put the username and password in here, in the way that I've done it here. This is my username and password in that particular system is the word username and password. Very stupid bit of security, but this you probably want to think about that and have a password into your development system. But there you go, have at it.